This week, joining me on the podcast is the extremely talented Darren Eubank from the band D and Chi. Darren is incredibly talented. He puts on one heck of a live show. He's been on American Idol. We sit down and we kind of discuss his music career, being on American Idol, how he got in with his bandmate Chi, and honestly, just stories from back in the day. I hope you guys enjoy.
Hey, are you talking about back in the day?
Nah, man. I'm talking about back in the day.
Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day.
Joining us today on the Back in the Day podcast is Darren Eubank from D and Chi. How you doing today, Darren?
I'm good, man. It's good to be here.
Dang, dude. Thanks for coming out. So we were just kind of talking before we started recording, just kind of things are starting to pick back up now that the pandemic's starting to kind of
looks like a light at the end of the tunnel, you know.
For sure.
So it's definitely refreshing. When the pandemic hit, I think like most creatives, we lost about 3/4 of our income and just kind of said, like, how do we even keep the lights on? You know what I'm saying? And it's been a long, hard year. We found ways to keep going. I created this thing called Songs from the Street. That was really, really fun and wildly successful. So that was cool. And as, you know, the mask mandate being lifted and vaccinations kind of coming in at this record number now, I think people are starting to feel a little bit safer. And like I said, that light at the end of the tunnel just keeps getting brighter. So
What was the Songs from the Street?
So I gave myself about 2 weeks to be super depressed, and I felt like every time I opened my phone, everything was being canceled. This is like, you know, mid-March into April and stuff like that of 2020. And then I said, okay, well, how can I make money? And I just started like I cleared my entire whiteboard out, and I just started writing on it, saying, okay, maybe I can deliver groceries, or I can do this and this and this. And I said, what if I could play music for people? Like, how could I do that? And I started seeing this, and maybe you saw these too, but it was like viral videos of like police departments and fire departments doing these like birthday drive-bys for like little kids and stuff. And these were all over Facebook when the pandemic was first happening. And I was like,
Teachers were doing that. Everybody was doing that.
Right? Like anniversaries, stuff like that. And so I said, man, what if I could do that with music? And so I started like brainstorming, because obviously being a musician, I'm like, I don't want to do anything besides music, you know what I'm saying? And so I said, okay, how can I just show up to, let's say I just show up to people's houses and I play music from them, socially distant, of course, like from the car, or like from the curb or whatever, from the street. And I said, okay, well, now I need a cool name. And I started like coming over, you know, saying everything needs a cool name. And so I came up with Songs from the Street, kind of ironically, because with my band D and Chi, our first EP we ever did was a EP called Music on Streets. And it's because our band started busking, which just means playing music for money on the street with the guitar case open or something like that. That's kind of how we started. So I was like, kind of give me an ode to going back to when I actually started, right?
Yeah.
And so Songs from the Street, and I said, okay, well, it's a cool idea, but I can't just show up in front of a house, you know, someone that's hired me to come and play with just my acoustic, because what if they lived like near a highway or a busy street and they just can't hear me? And I'm like, it's not going to land. Like, it'll be like, oh, it was a cool moment, you know, but it's not going to be something that's like memorable. So I went to Walmart and I bought this AC power converter for my car. And I was able to, you know, plug it into a cigarette lighter in my car, and I was able to plug in my entire PA system. It was like a portable one, so it wasn't too powerful, but I could literally pull up to the curb, open the back, plug in, turn it on, and play. And it wasn't like too loud or it was like overbearing, but it was loud enough that it landed, like for people.
Okay.
And then I also knew we live in a culture where people are like, well, who's all going to be there? And so when I said, hey, this is what I'm doing, I'm calling it Songs from the Street, hire me, I'll come out and play music, I was like, they have to see me doing this before they actually like jump on board to do this. And so I just called a bunch of friends, Jared Sandler being one of them, and said, hey, look, how are you guys doing during this? Let me come play some music for free. We can play some music for free for your family. So they're like, yeah, come on out. So I came out and set up and I played. And before I started, I said, look, the only thing I ask is you live stream this. Just live stream it on Facebook. Say hi to this guy. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can do that. So I played. They live streamed. They posted about it. And within hours, my inbox is just blowing up with people wanting me to come out and play.
Nice.
So I ended up doing, over the span of the year of 2020, I ended up doing 40 of those shows.
Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I would imagine, too, though, like with the pandemic, people were like wanting to have something to do.
Yeah.
So
It was what I got from pretty much about 90% of the people was, we haven't been out of our house. We haven't seen live music in months. And this was so, and they kept saying, needed.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I mean, it's as much as you need it, dude, so do I, man. This is therapy for me, too.
yeah, I might need it more than you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right, though. People needed stuff like crazy. I mean, in comedy, people were doing these Zoom shows, which were absolutely terrible. I did 1 or 2 of them. It was the most awkward thing I've probably done.
It's weird, isn't it? There's no reaction. You can't feed off of people. You can't read rooms. Like, we've been doing some college virtual shows because that's what colleges are kind of reverting to when it comes to playing on campuses. And that's a big part of our income when we play music is universities. And so they've been doing virtual shows. So we're like setting up this cool space like in our apartment, our room or whatever. And we're playing these songs and we finish. And it's like, thank you guys. You know what I'm saying? There's just this weird, you can't hear claps or anything. And so for us, we're trying to like make it as interactive as possible.
Yeah.
Like, what's some of your favorite songs? And like, it's college kids, so no one really is extroverted anyway. So it's just, it's tough to do it on Zoom.
And there's kind of this weird delay to it. Like, it's not like a full delay, but there is like this awkward pause where people are getting, if they are, because with comedy, though, a lot of them, what they do is they keep the microphone on for the audience members too.
Okay.
So that way you can hear the laugh. But it's always in this like awkward spot. So you're just like, this is so terrible. Why am I doing this to myself? I don't miss comedy this much.
Yeah. And half the battle is getting like good audio. Can you guys hear me? Am I muted? Yeah. like someone needs to coin that phrase. They can make billions of dollars.
So you said when you started off and y'all were playing on the streets, like at the beginning, where was that at? Was that in Dallas?
Yeah. So a lot of people might know this. The Bishop Arts District. It's just south of the Trinity River. It's this little bubble of Oak Cliff where there's, and you think Oak Cliff, you're like, hey, Oak Cliff, that's my hood, right? There's this bubble in Oak Cliff called the Bishop Arts District, and it's mom and pop shops, restaurants, art galleries, and live music. And it's just like 3 or 4 block radius where like pretty much no crime ever happens. It's kind of weird, but there's not any parking. So it's completely like valet. And about, I guess, this is 2021, so about 8 years ago, me and Chima, my bandmate, we went out there to busk on the street right in front of the valet. Because for us, we're like, look, there's no parking, and if we want to be heard, people are either going to drop off their car at the valet, and they're going to come pick it up. So they're either going to hear us when they get here or hear us when they leave. And also, they're probably going to tip the valet, so they probably got cash broken. So why not set up in front of the valet?
It's genius.
And so we did that, and honestly, that was just to get some gas money, really, as we were just kids. And if it was sunny and, the weekend, we were pretty much out there playing. So,
are you guys from Dallas?
Red Oak,
in the area?
Red Oak, Texas. So that would be Ellis County.
Okay.
It's just north of Waxahachie. If you're a barbecue fan, Meat Church is from Waxahachie. Matt Pittman. It's about 7 miles north of that, Red Oak, Texas.
Okay, so you grew up in the Red Oak area. Were you into music growing up, like in high school, middle school?
I liked music. That was more of Chima's thing. He was like the kid that like listened to Usher and like did all the dance moves.
Did y'all grow up together?
Yeah. We've known each other since Pee Wee football. Like we played in the Blackhawks. We never. The team we played on was in 6th grade together was called the Blackhawks, and we never scored a touchdown.
Nice.
Never.
I thought you were about to say we never lost a game.
No, we never scored a touchdown, bro. It was hilarious. We got this really cool game where we got to play at Texas Stadium, And it was kind of funny because the two teams that we were playing, the game that we were playing against, that team hadn't won a game either. So it was like the toilet bowl. And our first play of the game, our running back had this huge break, and he ran like 85 yards. We got to the 1 yard line, and we're like, we're about to score a touchdown at Texas Stadium. We didn't score a touchdown. We three plays in a row, we got sacked. It was just like, it was hilarious. But that's kind of how we started. But we're the same age, so we went to the same school, went to the same church, went to the same college. So we've literally known each other our entire lives. So
you weren't really into music too much growing up? Like, were you in choir? Were you doing anything?
I was a sports kid, bro. I played sports. I played basketball, baseball, and football all the way through. I ended up playing a couple of years of college baseball as well.
Oh, where at?
Cedar Valley College.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was honestly, that was a dream. Was like college baseball, then to play in the MLB. I was super good at sports, and baseball was my thing. But it wasn't until I want to say probably I had just graduated high school, and I had picked up a guitar that summer, and started teaching myself and trying to play in my church and in my small group and stuff like that. When I started like writing songs, and before that I was into poetry. Like, I was a kid in class where the English teacher was like, all right, we're about to do our English, our poem like part. Everyone's like, oh, and I'm kind of in the back like, let's go.
But
let's
were you being quiet about it though because you were in sports? So you were just like,
Absolutely.
Poetry's weak, man. But really at home you were just like,
yeah, dude, I was writing sonnets, bro, at the house. Like, I loved poetry. I dug it. And at school I was like, yeah, I wrote something. I don't know if it's any good, or whatever. But my teacher's like keeping me after class. She's like, you're really good at this. And I'm like, thanks. Just don't tell anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how high school is. Like, we all have these weird conceptions and ideas about what people think of us. And I was like, yo, I like this. But when I started playing guitar, I was like, I wonder if I could put one of these to music. And I did. The song was terrible. But
do you remember the lyrics to your first song that you wrote?
I probably have it somewhere. I don't remember. I don't. Oh, I think about it and maybe I do. It would take me a little bit to think of it, but I'm sure I could like conjure something up there. But yeah, I remember playing it for a very select few people, and they were like, this is amazing. You need to be on the radio, whatever. Yeah. And I started kind of seeing how music can change, people's, day and stuff like that. And man, I want to dive into this. And so I actually would play guitar for my baseball team at college. And there's a couple guys that could play. And so we would do like, group outings and stuff at bonfires, fishing trips and stuff. And so I'd bring the guitar and everyone would be like, D, play us a song. And that's kind of when I started playing for people, was my baseball team.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of when it was there. And then with Chima, like I said, he was like all in, wanted to be a superstar. And so he was doing like YouTube stuff himself, and he did not know how to play guitar. So he would just ask around campus, hey, can someone play guitar for this cover I'm going to do on YouTube?
Yeah.
And so he called me one day. I was like, hey, I need some help. And so I was like, okay. So I came up and played. And I was like, look, let me sing some harmony, like to just kind of fill it out. And so we did. And in the video that we did, I think it got like 7,000 or 8,000 views, which at that point in YouTube, like career, this was 2013, 2012. It was like, we just went viral. you know what I'm saying? Like, we're blowing up.
You're quitting school. Yeah. You're like, I guess we don't got to do this paper.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Funny, I actually did quit college when we started doing music, but we had a couple more videos where there was like elevated amounts of views, and someone was like, you guys should go play in the Bishop Arts District. And we were just like, what's the Bishop Arts District? And once we figured out it, we were scared to death. But that's kind of how we started playing music together. We would just pull some of my crappy songs together, some of Chima's crappy songs together, and then some covers we heard on the radio, and go out there and play like 15 songs in a row and then start it over again. We'd play for hours.
What song were y'all playing on the video that got you the 8,000 views?
That was we did Payphone. You remember Payphone by Maroon 5?
Yeah.
And then like Wiz Khalifa had like a remix verse on it. That I tell people I will never sing that song again. We ran that song into the ground, playing that everywhere we went. Payphone, and then we did the Fighter. It was B.O.B. and Ryan Tedder from One Republic.
Okay.
There goes the fighter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we couldn't sing. It's hilarious watching those videos. Like, we knew what we were doing, but as a kid, and you know, the voice is a muscle, and we weren't using it near as much as we are today. So just kind of hearing us try to hit these like notes and like, it's just funny watching it. But it's like it's humble beginnings, and you know, it's wholesome. Really, it's just kind of cool.
So, okay, so y'all are in college. You're making the videos. You've
Yep.
now been playing guitar for a couple years at this point, right?
Yep.
Did you eventually like go and get voice lessons anywhere, or was that like the next step, or just never did that?
I never did it. And Chima, so like I said, Chima was a superstar, so he did that stuff. He was in choir. He sang the national anthem at all the high school games. Like, that was him. He was very technical. For me, I just sang, and he would always get on to me because he's like, why don't you ever warm up your voice? And I'm like, I am warm up. You know, like, I just never did it. And as we kept going and playing more shows, my voice was just tired. And so I kind of, in my own way, started doing like Spotify playlist of like vocal warm-ups and stuff.
Okay.
So on the way to shows, I would do like I would make these weird sounds. My wife, it's funny when she's on the road with us or whenever, and I'm doing these vocal warm-ups, she's like, she knows to put in earphones when I start doing that stuff, because it just sounds weird. And every vocalist knows, like, this is the weirdest part of our lives is vocal warm-ups, because we're making these weird noises.
So you never sang the national anthem at the high school?
So
never did any of that?
It's a funny story between Chima and I only did it one time, and it was my senior night of baseball. And I got to give props to my mom for this, because she kind of made it happen. Because I kind of was telling her, I was like, it'd be cool if I could sing the national anthem at our last like home game, you know. And she's like, I'll talk to Officer Lindsay, which Officer Lindsay was kind of like the guy who did the commentating at the games, and he did all that stuff. And so they go super way back, like 20, 30 years. So she tells him, like, hey, I want Darren to sing the national anthem. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And then Chima is like talking about it at school, like he's going to do the national anthem. And I'm like,
not this
Mom,
time.
Chima's saying this, you know, whatever. And so literally before the game, my mom goes up to the press box and she goes, hey, our Coach Autry wants Darren to sing the national anthem. And then he's like, he gives the mic to my mom. My mom takes it to our coach and she goes, hey, Officer Lindsay wants Darren to sing the national anthem. And so I grab the mic and I'm walking out there and I see Chima walking up to the stands and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And so I sing the national anthem. That's literally the only time I ever sing it. And Chima's like, bro, you stole my thunder, man. I was like, dude, it was my night.
My one time, dude.
Yeah.
You do it every time.
Yeah.
I have a national anthem at high school sporting event story for you. One time I snuck in to sing the national anthem, kind of like not your exact way, but it still was a sneak surprise. I was in this fake boy band in high school with three of my friends. We were called Desire. It was
that's powerful.
D-ZYRA. No, ZYRE. Right?
Yes,
okay.
bro.
And we had this joke boy band that it turned into this actual real boy band for like about 3 months. We performed at a Sonic opening.
Yo,
a skating rink.
Let's go.
Skating rink for a birthday party, and then the national anthem at our high school's playoff basketball team, right? And we snuck in because the choir was supposed to do it, and three of the guys were in choir, and I was not. And so I just kind of shifted into it, and then we ended up singing the national anthem for the playoff game. We had the hit song. It went our one song we had was it went 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11. Girl, you on my mind 24/7.
Yes, let's go. Oh my gosh, and that was fire back then. Like, dude, honestly, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, that was
Desire.
Desire, dog. It was really stupid, but we used it as this joke because our theater department was what did our biggest fundraiser was the talent show.
Okay.
So I went on to the announcements. I was like, we got this local boy band that's going to come perform at the end. So you got to make sure you're there. So all these people came, right, to make sure that they could do it. So I did it so that we could make money.
Yeah.
And then we came out and everyone was like, what is this?
What is going
and then people
on?
went crazy. Someone unbuttoned our shirts from
That's amazing.
from the crowd. It was a big deal. It was the biggest. It was one of my favorite high school stories. So
That's awesome.
you go from college, you're playing for your teammates. What's the next step? How do you get in? Where do you go from there?
Really, so we had kind of done some. I'll say this: the city of like the area of Bishop Arts, they've kind of got like this committee that puts on like all the pop-up shows and they do the big holiday event and stuff like that. Well, we had been playing out there for about a summer and a half. It was about to be Christmas time, and we got approached by them saying, hey, we all love y'all's music down here. Would you play at the Jingle Bell on Bishop festival? And we're like, oh, that's cool. And they were like, usually about 10 to 15,000 people on foot traffic that weekend out. And we were just like, what in the world? And I was like, Chima, we got to get some kind of music online or tangible that people can buy. Because literally there was two questions that people would ask us when we play. When's your next show and where can we get your music? And we were just like, we just want gas money, you know. So we didn't have any of that. But when they told us that, I was like, yo, we got to figure something out. So I talked to one of my cousins and he got us some recording time, and we recorded this 5-track EP. And we were gonna have this big release show. And I told Chima, I was like, we need to put a band together of some of the guys from college. And let's just have fun. And so we did this show, and I was like, let's always do full band. And so which was really cool. But after that show, that kind of people started taking us seriously. Is that a Nirvana cover band?
No, I think it's some kind of one of the pedal bikes.
Oh,
the party bike. I saw them as Deep Ellum's back. We recorded in Deep Ellum, so it's back. The party bikes are out, so they're pedaling and drinking and having a good time on a Sunday, on the Lord's Day.
Right. Oh man.
So y'all got the stuff together for the jingle.
Yeah, and so in fact, actually that year it got snowed out, so we actually didn't even play. So we took some time to do more recording, and then released it back the May of that following year. I guess that was 2014, and that was kind of cool. People started booking us for. We said yes to everything, bro. And you might understand this too, but people would come up and be like, yo, we're doing a wine tasting. Do you guys do wine tastings? We're like, yes. And then someone was like, hey, I'm having a bar mitzvah. Will you play at my... We're like, yes. And we were doing baby dedications and, birthday parties and quinceañeras. We would just say yes to everything. And that was kind of when people would hear us and it'd be like, we want to follow your music. Where can we get your music? Blah, blah, blah. And so we probably got our first 1,000 followers from just saying yes to the most random things. And that kind of... I said yes to this weird Craigslist showcase that was supposedly at the House of Blues. And so we showed up at this showcase and we played it and we ended up getting second place. There was 20 bands playing this showcase, and it was just me and Chima, and then we had our a keyboard player and a guitar player behind us. And we had been serious for 3 or 4 months, and we played this thing and we got second place. And one of the judges was like, I want to manage y'all. They were like, yes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we just started saying yes. And so he put together this plan to release this album. And so we released our first full band album about a year later, right on my birthday. It's actually, we released it the day after the Dallas police shootings that happened downtown, where they were being targeted, We actually were here in Deep Ellum. We were setting up the night before, so it would have been the 7th of July, at 3 Links. Just a block or two over, and heard gunshots, all that, which was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so for us, we're like, so do we cancel this? Because we literally been planning this for 6 months. We ended up going ahead with it, and the album name was called Corners. And so the idea was let's all come together and turn the corner on this tragedy, And so it was kind of a cool night, which for musicians. the release show is like the night for you, right?
Yeah.
So it was big. It happened on my birthday. Like, it was awesome. So, you know, we partied and I slept in, and the next morning I was just kind of like, so what's next? Like, so we just do that again, or like, what do we do?
Got to make another one of these, like all this work. Like,
and so I'm watching The Voice, and The Voice is like super brand new, but there's this country artist on there, and they're interviewing him, and he just goes, I play the college circuit, and I was just like, what's the college circuit? Like, I don't even know what that is. And so I remember Googling college circuit music, and there's this whole new world of like these companies that put on these conferences, and entertainers like you and I, we apply to get into these conferences, and we play shows in front of colleges. And the one I did was called NACA.
Yeah, I know NACA.
Yeah. And so I told my manager, I was like, look at this whole thing. We could play in front of colleges, we can travel and tour. And literally like 6 weeks later, we were on our bus to the first showcase, like doing one. And so that's kind of what really, I tell people this kind of jumpstarted our career, was NACA. And we still do it today. So
how many, that first NACA tour that y'all did, how many colleges did you do? Do you remember in
6.
that year? 6?
Yeah, we were blown away. I mean, as kids, the most money we ever made playing music was like $500 at that point.
Yeah.
And we played one show in Carolina for like 60 minutes, and they paid us $800. And I was like, Chima, we got to get out of here before they think they messed up or something, you know. And that was like huge money to us. But we did like a 6-show tour. We toured on around. We used the Greyhound bus.
Okay.
That was like our first. It was brutal. I'll never do that again, ever. But it was like terrible sleep schedule, and it's a public bus, so it's just like,
yeah,
everyone's in your face. It was just like, this is terrible. But the shows were awesome. But that was 5 years ago, five falls ago, if you will. It'll almost be 5 years. It's about 4.5 ago.
And then you did American Idol, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When was that?
That would have been 2 summers or 2 years ago. So like, I guess it premiered February of 2019.
Did y'all go in as a band, or you went solo?
So we actually got recruited as a duo.
Okay.
We got this random, which I thought it was a scam, man. We got this random email to our music email, and Chima and I both share that email. So I see this, and then he calls me like almost immediately. He's like, "Did you see this?" And I was like, "Yeah, someone wants us to audition for American Idol at this private hotel downtown in a couple days." And I was like, "Dude, this is a scam. Like, it has to be." And he's like, "Let's just go. Let's just see what it is. Like, if it is, it is. We have a story, but let's just try it." And I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't even know if I want to do American Idol." And so I remember telling my at that time she was my fiance, but literally they emailed us on a Monday. The audition was on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And I picked my wife up from Zumba, or my fiance from at the time from Zumba, and I was like, "Hey, I think we're going to go to Dallas and do this, like, see if this is an audition." So she shows up with us in her Zumba, like, outfit and stuff. And for me, like I said, I'm thinking this is a scam, so I'm not really dressed up at all. I got, like, a tank top on. I'm wearing shorts, whatever. And there's, like, 60 other artists, and I'm like, I guess this is real. And so we filled out some paperwork, and we auditioned. And they said yes, and they were like, "Okay, well, we want to push you through to the judge round, so what city do you want to audition in?" And they gave us like 5 or 6 different cities, and we picked LA or New York, and I think LA was already booked, so they're like, "Okay, you're going to New York, and we'll call you in a couple months." And so literally we sang for some like producers and a camera the first time, and then like the next time we were actually singing was in front of the judges in Brooklyn to like get a gold ticket, and we both got gold tickets, and we made it. And they're like, "Well, if you make it, you're gonna have to go against each other." And I was like, "That's fine." Yeah. It's like, I like competition,
and it kind of benefits you both too, right?
Exactly. We were kind of like, look, the way we look at it is we've got two lives in this thing, So if one of us does get eliminated, we can, maybe someone else goes a little bit farther. And I don't want to toot my horn. I went farther than Chima though. So
how long were you on it for?
I made it. So we both made it to Hollywood Week, and Hollywood Week's like, it's like 4 days, and I don't know how they do it quite now with the pandemic and everything, but the basic Hollywood Week is like a 4-day boot camp of just, getting it done. So Chima made it through the second day. I made it all the way to the fourth day.
Okay.
I missed like the top 40 by like 10 or 11 people.
Okay.
The way they kind of rank it. So technically I made it to the top 90. However, like when I left, there was about 55 people still there. And
Okay.
When we got in, there was about 180 people. So I was this close, and the top 40 went to Hawaii, and I was like,
Oh,
yo,
man.
I could have done. And this was like right before I got married. So it would have been December, us going to New York. December, us going to New York. And then like late December, we did the Hollywood week. And then if we would have gone to Hawaii, I would have gone to Hawaii the first week of January, would have got married, would have done my honeymoon, like all in the same month. So I would have gone Hawaii, married, and honeymoon in the same month.
Incredible month,
I was like,
man.
yeah, that would have been sick. But yeah, it was cool, man. American Idol was fun. They put you in very high pressure situations, and some people failed miserably.
Like what type of situations would they put you in?
Well, when you think about it, when you break it down, there's some people like there's kids and even older people who've never really sang for anyone, except their family or their church, and you get that every year on the TV show. Like, I grew up playing in my church, and that's really all I've ever played for. And so now they're like, okay, we're gonna fly you first class across the country. You're gonna stay in this best hotel here in LA. You're going to be thrown into a competition with 180 people who can sing the phone book. And also you're going to be judged by 3 mega celebrities. And also there's 1,000 cameras watching you right now.
Yeah.
Okay, sing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And so it's like, man, there's just so much pressure there. And then in Hollywood Week, they kind of like vaguely talk about it on TV. But from the first round where it's like the lines of 10 and this group, you're in a group of 10 people, everyone comes on stage, they sing, you sing like a verse and a chorus by yourself, and then you walk off, and then after all 10 go, you all walk back out on stage. They do the really like high pressure step forward, step back or whatever, and then you decide if you're moving on, and so people are getting cut just like that.
So that's for TV,
wild.
right? So like that part's on TV.
Yeah.
How much in real time is that though? Is there a lot of like cutting and having to reshoot it? Like, do they? You know what I mean? Like
the cutting of them takes no time at all.
Okay.
It was kind of crazy because it was all fun and games, right? For our anyone who's like competing in this. The first day was like we did a bunch of promo stuff. We took some pictures and they were like creating GIFs and stuff for us. If we got further in the competition, they were going to like launch them out into the world and all this stuff. So the first day was really fun. The second day, like, we started competition, and then once the first people got eliminated, everyone was like, oh, this just got really... Because it was like they came on the line, and they were like, no one's going through. Sorry, thank you for... I was like, yo, no one? Because all of them did great. And you're just like, I wonder who's going through. And they're like, no one's going through. And we're like, yo... It just got super serious. So, and that was like, they follow you with the camera. They get as soon as you get eliminated, they're like, boom, I want to see how you're reacting. And so you walk off the stage, you have to walk by all the contestants, and then you walk out of the theater. And then right out the theater, they're like, so what could you have done better? And they start growing, you do your exit interview and stuff. And so some people who didn't like being eliminated, like, were throwing fits. And Katy Perry, by the way, is a hawk, and she tells it like it is, and she was like grilling some of these people who were, some people are like, why am I going home? I'm way better than whatever.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I'm like, yeah, I would never say that in front of people like that. But she's just like, well, I guess we all know, and she's like saying it into the mic. She's like, I guess we all know who's never gonna make it in this business, and like stuff like that, and like and she like. I was like, yo, and she knows what she's doing. By the way, Luke Bryan takes the most makeup breaks out of all 3, which is hilarious.
I don't doubt that.
And Lionel Richie is like the wise uncle that you just want to sit cross-legged in front of and listen to everything he has to say, because everything that comes out of his mouth is iconic, whether he thinks it is or not. Because he's like, 45 years ago, I was sitting on blah blah blah, and he's just like throwing out these names of like actors who are either dead and gone or like these huge mega celebrities, and they're just like Joe Schmo to him because he's been in Hollywood for 50 years. But he's just got all this wisdom, and he's talking about like all these secret restaurants. He's like, when you guys, you got to try this place. It's on the backside of he's just like told us all this stuff. And we're like, we can't even leave the hotel without a camera following us. So it's like, and the cameras are everywhere, man. It's they follow you everywhere to the restroom, except they don't go into your rooms. But about 45 hours into being there, you kind of get used to cameras, like not like being everywhere, and so it just kind of it doesn't really phase you. But it was fun. I mean, getting to compete with some of the best people, and for Chima and I, we've always kind of been the best, or at least known that we probably have one of the better voices, like in the room, wherever we're at, and so to step into like Hollywood Week and every single person there, maybe besides like one or two, could sing anything and it would sell 100,000 albums. Like, you're just like, whoa, this is
a whole
crazy.
Nother level, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. So there's like a fight or flight type thing there too.
So once you're off that show, did you get bookings from that, being on that? Or?
Yeah. In a perfect world, you get off the show, some label calls and like, yo, we just watched y'all on American Idol. We love y'all. Why don't you guys come in? Let's talk about your future. And everything's gravy from then. Like, that doesn't really happen. Doesn't really happen to most people. But what it did do is we could say, first off, making it to the top 90 is a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that year 212,000 people auditioned. So to make it to like double digits, still standing was awesome. Also, the winner that year was in my group. His name's Lane Hardy. He was in my group, and so as he kept going farther into the competition, they would do like a flashback, like here's where Lane's been.
Yeah, and then it would show you on it
exactly.
too. Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, Lane, keep going, man, because you keep giving me this TV time, And so being able to put that on like resumes and EPKs, and when we're reaching out to people, being able to say like, hey, American Idol finalists. Like that, for some reason, that validates, even though we were the same person before as we were after. Like when you can say that, people are just like, oh, wow,
yeah, man.
Tell me more. And
any type of entertainer just having some kind of credit just changes, because audience members hear that. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like when you're getting introed for, for a gig or whatever, as soon as they say American Idol, everyone in the audience is like, tuned. Oh, okay, let me put my drink down. Let me stop talking. Let me turn around and actually pay attention. It's quite funny. I wish I had a video like from behind us, because we don't tell people about American Idol until about the third, fourth song into our sets. And we always say, a couple years ago we had to be on a show called American Idol. And it's just crazy seeing everyone's face go from like into whatever they're doing and just go. Yeah.
And just start like paying attention to us. If they weren't before. And I wish I had a video of all the shows we played where we say that, and then everyone's next just goes boom.
Do you still go back to Red Oak and like go to like events with like people that you grew up with, like high school, stuff like that?
Yeah, I do, and I will. I do, and I will. And I say I will because I guess I'm 12 years out of high school, and the 10-year reunion is kind of a big deal, and the people who were supposed to put together our reunion and our 10-year did not. And so we all have this Facebook group of our class, and everyone's like, when's the reunion happening? What's the reunion? And so this one guy in our class was like, hey, I'll try to put it together. And he was like trying to book like downtown Dallas, the Crescent Room, and like it was like he's like, hey, I work here, so it's only a $10,000 deposit, and we're just like, yo, we can't do that. It's only 10 years out of high school. And so I jumped in and I was like, look, I'll try to put this together and help out, and it kind of became like all on my shoulders, and so I was like, I didn't realize that was going to happen. And so I kind of put this thing together, and I was trying to appease everyone, and it felt just like high school. No one could come up with anything. So we didn't even have a reunion. We haven't had one still.
Because I was wondering if like when you went to like parties or other stuff like that after you had been on American Idol, if people try to like make you a bigger deal than they like treat you better than they did whenever before that.
Well, when we were on American Idol, I was actually still living in Waxahachie. So after I had just gotten married and I moved back, 'cause my dad was kind of in bad health, and so I moved closer to him so I could help out. And so I moved there to Waxahachie for a year, and that year was when we were on American Idol. So as the show's airing and words getting out that we were on the show, I couldn't really go into public because it's small. It's a small town, and so everywhere you go, everyone knows everyone. And so, I mean, I'm like in the drive-thru at Sonic, and I order, and I pull up, and like there's like 4 employees at the window, and they're like, "Are you on American Idol?" And I was like, Yeah, I am. They're like, I knew it, whatever. Walking into HEB, I went shopping, and I was there. It should have only took 20 minutes. It should have, and it took like 2.5 hours because I would turn the corner and someone would be like, "Oh, it's Darren. Hey, hey, how's American Idol, man? Like, how are the judges?" And it was like the same questions.
Yeah, over and over again.
I told Grisha, I was like, "Look, you're gonna have to shop for us for the next I don't know how long, but." That's just, I like answering questions about American Idol because I like telling people about, the cool stuff we're doing. Like, why not? That's free kind of advertising. Yeah. But I was like, I'm tired. My voice is really tired.
And you're probably thinking, like, you didn't ever talk to me before this. Like, why are you talking to me about this? I remember, when I first graduated college, I did, so I have a degree in theater, okay? And when I graduated, I did, 2 commercials right after college, right away. And I was doing stand up too, and I would go to parties with people that I went to high school with that were always and obviously I knew people there.
Yeah.
And people were always semi-friendly to me, but when I went after that, people were like, "Oh, what's up, man? You're here. What's up, bro?" And I was like, "You never even talk to me." Yeah. And I'm not. There's no success here. Yeah. I'm basically I'm a substitute teacher, right? I'm legitimately a substitute teacher at our high school. Why are y'all trying to act like this is the coolest thing you've ever been to?
No, I totally get that, man. You're the same person, but for some reason. Being on TV, people think. I mean, I was getting calls from people asking for money or a loan, and I'm like, dude, I made $0 on that show. They flew me home, and I was like, I gotta hit Uber because I need cash tonight. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't get to gig for that week and a half or whatever,
exactly,
right? So I didn't make any money. So, all right. So, name of the podcast is Back in the Day, right? Every season we're going to talk about a different topic. This season, I'm talking to people about a story from their first job, what they did for their first job, something memorable about the first job. Do you have a story for me about the first job you ever worked, or just it doesn't have to be the exact first job, or just anything like that?
Yeah, like a creative, I have so many. I've worked so many different jobs. My first job, right out of high school, I was a cart boy at Thorntree Country Club in DeSoto.
Okay,
and for those who don't know, cart boys are pretty much, we get there at the butt crack of dawn and we set up the golf course and the driving range. And if it's a country club, usually there's carts that we have to set out, and we do a 7x7 row by the pro shop. And pretty much so half of my job was done by 6:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting there at 4:45 or whatever, setting out everything. And then I would just sit until the course opened up at 8 a.m. And I would just sit in the parking lot in a golf cart, wait for people to show up, and I'd meet them at their car, grab their clubs, and I would take it to wherever they wanted me to go. And that's kind of how I made my tips. But back in that time, Jordan Spieth was still a Jesuit high school.
Okay.
And after school, he would come to the country club and hit. And so when he would show up, he's still in high school, by the way. When he would show up, the course was shut down, and every old man and friend and whoever would just come up and watch him hit on the driving range. And this is a kid in high school. But what was cool for me is we kind of had this short relationship because I was the guy who was feeding him, all of his golf balls and stuff.
And you were roughly his same age.
Yeah, roughly the same age. I was a couple years older than him, but I'd come out and I'd bring out I knew if I knew he was coming, I would go and get a whole new, because we had this this. I don't know how other country clubs do it, but at Thorntree there was like the way we would wash all the golf balls, and they would come into this pyramid, and we would like kind of flip it, and it would literally be like a pyramid of golf balls. And so like if you're hitting, you would just like take the top off, you would roll down, and you would hit it, and that's how you kind of did it. So he would go through a whole pyramid, right? And so I would bring out a newly cleaned, fresh whole, plate of golf balls for him. And so we kind of had this weird relationship where I was the guy who just, I fed him golf balls, and so that was probably the coolest part of working there was getting to meet him. I met Dale Hansen there one time. I picked him up from his car, took him to our 19th hole where he played poker. And that was like on a Friday afternoon. And then I actually showed up Saturday morning to work, and him and his friends were still in there playing poker.
Oh, man.
And one guy lost his truck.
Oh.
He put a pink slip down on his truck and lost it. And I was like, I wonder if they're going to go through with that. Later that day, there was a tow truck picking up the truck. And I was like,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having that kind of, I mean, I'm sure, he probably had some money to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
But just having that type of money and you're over here, I'm working for tips.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Dude, some of the guys that would show up at that country club, like there was a guy, his last name was Raza, but he had like a big old like scramble that he would play every day at noon. And it'd be like 15 or 20 people would show up, and he paid for the whole thing. And dude, that guy was stunting, man. I don't know what he did for a living, but they always had Cubans. They were dressed to the nines. The cars were shiny and new. The clubs were shiny and new. Like I was like, yo, I wonder how much money this guy makes. I took his bag one day from after they got done playing, and so part of like how I pretty much made the same amount of tips as I made working like hourly. Because obviously it's a country club, and so how I did it was obviously I'd meet you at your car, take your clubs wherever they go, and then whenever you finished your hole, I would be at the 18th hole, and while everyone's putting, I would clean all the other clubs.
Yeah.
And then I would just take their clubs to the locker room and stuff. And so that's kind of how I made like my tips on tips, right? Well, this one time, this guy walks up to the cart barn, and he's like, hey man, can you put my clubs up? Which at this point, when he's made it all the way to the cart barn, his locker is like 25 feet. And so he hands me the clubs, and I was like, yeah, sure, man, I got you. And then he hands me $100 bill, and he's like, thanks, man. And I was like, oh, you messed up. And he was like, oh no, don't worry about it. And I was like, dude, this guy just gave me $100 bill to carry his clubs 25 feet.
When else are you coming to play?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Let me make sure I get on that shift.
Exactly.
How long did you work there?
I worked there for a year and a half.
Okay.
Year and a half, and it was good times. There was like a management change, and the new manager was like a super douche, and I was like, I gotta get out of here.
You got any good stories of any jobs that you either one were fired or two quit inappropriately?
Yes, absolutely. So
you don't have to say the name of the place if you don't want to.
I won't. But
okay.
this was a job that I had wanted since I was a kid, because this place kind of made like apparel and jerseys and stuff for like teams and stuff, and I had all my teams growing up. That's where we got our uniforms from. And so there was an opening there, and I went to work, and it was like under new management. This guy was he's from Germany, broken English, learning his story. He immigrated to Arizona, and in Arizona, I guess to get his like citizenship faster, like you had to put like stock into some kind of company. So he randomly put stock into the name of to this sports company. This sports company files for bankruptcy, and he loses his entire savings, or he loses like all of his money. So he picks up, moves to Dallas, and uses all of his savings to reopen this store.
Okay.
To run this store and get his money back. And so that was like his thing. The problem was he didn't know a single thing about sports. Not a single thing. He thought volleyballs were basketballs, and basketballs were footballs, and baseball bats were softball bats, and golf clubs. It was just like so bad.
Why is this your job? Like, why did you put all of your money into something you have no idea what it is?
He was terrible at it. And like I said, broken English. So there'd be some times, his name is Louis, by the way. There would be some times I'd be like, Louis, you're not listening, man. And when I'm saying listening, I'm talking about like understanding. And he'd be like, and I'm gonna butcher this accent, but he would go, I'm understand. I'm here everything you say. And he's trying to say that he hears what I'm saying, but I'm like, you may hear it, but you're not, it's not ringing in your ear. And so he would botch jobs and he would botch orders, and I was pretty much left like picking up all the pieces. And I was like, dude, I really like this job. It was a job that I wanted to kind of like really, really have. And he left. He's like, hey, I'm going to Germany for Christmas. And so you're running the shop while I'm gone. And so I actually worked on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I was like, we're not closing the shop. And he's like, there could be customers. And I was like,
not on Christmas Day.
He obviously doesn't know, but I'm just like, man. So I worked through all that. But so I didn't do anything, but I created like a Facebook page because they didn't have a Facebook page. Mm-hmm. I created a website, I did all this stuff. But it was getting so bad because even on my off days, he'd be like, I don't know how to do this. You got to come in and help me out on this. Which that meant I was pretty much there for the rest of the day because he'd be like, oh, also I don't know how to do this. And so I never got time off. Uh-huh. And as I'm still young, so I'm like, dude, I want to, chase skirts and play basketball.
And were you doing music at this time too?
Yeah. I was like, dude.
No time off. There's no time for you to do music,
exactly.
Right?
I was like, you're killing my vibe. And we got into this big fight one day because he accused me of stealing. And I was like, yo, I would never steal. And it was just really big. And he was very scared of me, even though I'm a pretty nice guy. And so I was like, dude, I can't take this anymore. And I like stepped towards him to like give him I was about to take off my shirt, whatever. And he like jumped back because he thought I was like coming after him. And I was like, I'm out of here, man. So I took off my shirt and walked out. And so that was one. And I mean, there's a lot. There really is.
Well, you've worked a lot of different jobs, right? Because you're pursuing music. So anytime you're pursuing anything like this, you got to work a lot of different odd jobs.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question. Okay. So if money didn't matter, schedules didn't matter, right? Besides music, what's the one job that you would want to do for a career? If money wasn't an issue, didn't matter how much money you made, what's the one thing you would want to do?
Probably a high school baseball coach.
Okay.
Yeah, I love baseball that much, and I've been a baseball coach before for high school, Villa Christian School. My nephew went there, and I kind of somehow found myself coaching that team as well. It was so weird. I had helped him. He's a left-hander like me, and I spent a summer and a fall with him kind of working on his swing and, getting stronger. So he's like, how do you hit home runs? And I'm like, swing harder. And so we just kind of worked on because when you start swinging harder, you lose all your mechanics. And so pretty much I was like, all right, we're going to swing harder, but we're also going to still have our mechanics. So I worked with him and a buddy who played on his team. And that fall ball, his buddy was on fire. And so the coach at the school was like, son, what have you been doing? And he's like, well, Ricky's uncle's been helping him out and he's really good. And so I got a call from this coach and he's like, hey, you want to come on? And I'll pay you a stipend, but you want to come on as a batting coach? And I was like,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I did that for 2 years and we went to state championship twice. Lost to the same team 2 years in a row. And it ate me up, but I really, really enjoyed that. Just kind of getting to mold young minds about the game. And, honestly, if you've been in that position before, it becomes way more about life than it does about the game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so I just really, really enjoyed that for sure. So if I didn't do music and stuff, I would have gone to school and got my history degree because I love history, and would have been the history teacher. That's a coach.
There you go.
And coaches, that's
giving everybody a 70, right?
Exactly.
Just passing everybody. You don't want to have to fill out any paperwork. You
Yeah,
don't want to. It's like I'm not dealing with this whole paperwork I got to fill out if someone fails. All right, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So
plug everything you have going on.
Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely. So the summer of 2021, You can look out for our second studio album D&T is coming out with. The name has yet to been released, but that's coming out very soon. It's like, where can I find this music? All you have to do is head to Google and type in this pretty simple thing. It's the letter D, the word ands, like A-N-D, and then C-H-I. So D&Chi, you'll find us there. You can probably say D&Chi on American Idol, or just D&Chi. It'll all come up there. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Spotify, Google Play, Tidal, Amazon. The list goes on and on. You can kind of find us really anywhere. But honestly, if you're looking for a good place to go, the Bishop Arts District. I kind of pretty much know all the owners down there, and literally right after this podcast, I'm gonna go down and play some music. So yeah, so if you're really looking to hear us, you can probably find us in the Bishop Arts District.
Sweet, man. Well, guys, make sure you follow D&Chi on Instagram. Make sure you go see them live. I've seen them live. They are incredible. Absolutely a great time. Download their album, their first album, Corners.
Yes.
It is really good from top to bottom. It is a very good album. You can find me on Instagram at HeHeMikeP or Facebook.com/Michael Pasvar. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Thanks, Dan.